Welcome to County Talk. I'm your host, Kurt Pricer, and today we're talking about the 2014 Florida State Legislative Session, which ended on May 2nd. With me today are Rob Lewis, the Sarasota County Director of Community and Intergovernmental Relations. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Kurt.
And we also have the Chairman of the Sarasota County Commission, Charles Hines. Welcome, Commissioner.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so before we get into some of the details of what we were looking at going into the session, if you both could just give me a quick overview of your impressions of how you thought the session went. Let's start with you, Commissioner.
Sure. Before we went into the session, I personally had several meetings with our delegation, so the work really begins before the session starts, and Rob's works all year on, looking at what's coming. And all my conversations with the delegation was, hey, look, you all understand the economy's tough. It looks like we're coming out of the recession. We're trying to balance our budget. I think we're going to be able to do it without raising taxes and decreasing level of service. The wild card in all of this is something that you all might do in Tallahassee that we can't plan for. And so we just kind of said, hey, let us settle down a little bit. And I think Rob will tell you, I think the theme coming, I guess, from the governor's office is really do no harm. And I think we made it through that. And so as we get into some details that we're going to talk about today, we did that. There were some good and some bad things, but nothing that really says, oh my gosh, it's going to totally destroy the plans that the county commission has made. So overall, I think it was a very good session.
Rob, your thoughts?
Kurt, I would echo what the chairman said, and yes, he had multiple meetings for many months leading up to the session. I do want to state that we have a great legislative delegation. This past session, it was chaired by Representative James Boyd. But all of our members of our delegation were accessible the entire session, and prior to the session, they understood our issues. They took the time to learn the ones that they needed to learn, and I think it proved to be very helpful to us as we were explaining our position on things as they progressed. As the chairman said, we knew that the governor came in with an intent to reduce taxes by $400 or $500 million, and we knew that there were surplus funds within the state's revenue for them to make those kinds of decisions. And as he said, we also knew that because it was a session that was sort of couched in the do no harm framework, that our biggest chore was going to be watching for both the expected and the unexpected, and we'll talk about that later on as well.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit to a couple of the issues that we were tracking going into the session. One of the ones that we heard about quite a bit was juvenile detention, and this is an issue that's been going on for a few years at this point. A little background, if you would, and why we were watching it, what we hope to get out of this session. We'll start with you on this one, Rob.
Thank you, Kurt. Yes. For many years, the state and the counties have shared in the cost of juvenile detention. There's 67 counties in the state. Those 67 counties have different populations of juvenile detentions that they deal with. In the prior years, there was a funding or a methodology that was used to determine the county's share of those costs. That was challenged a couple years ago in a court case, and the courts ruled that the methodology was incorrect and that the state needed to reimburse the counties. Subsequent to that, there was a methodology that was adopted the prior year. And so our share of cost for juvenile detention went from a very high rate down to about 37%. We also knew that Sarasota County was going to be reimbursed for $1.8 million for the overcharges that had taken place in the years prior to the court case. During the session and leading up to the session, we were advocating for a more fair share, and in the end, the legislation did not pass. And Sarasota County will actually end up paying more in juvenile detention costs than they did in prior years. That happens because the departmental budget that will come through the governor's budget will raise the share from 50% to 57%. The issue of reimbursement ended up never moving out of the legislature, so we're kind of stuck where we are at that point.
All right. Mr. Chair, how does this affect how the board moves forward on this type of issue?
Well, I guess before I get to that, I want to, this issue isn't over. As I was in Tallahassee, the Florida Association of Counties, this is a really big deal because, these rules and the interpretation of the law seems to change and, by the administration. And so the effect on us is, how do you budget for it? What's your cost? Are we going to get reimbursed or are we not? And this issue is so big, it's hard to explain it in a show like this, but you're really talking about the cost of detaining juveniles prior to conviction and after conviction, how all that's allocated throughout the state. Some counties pay, like we do, a good amount. Some counties don't pay that much. It depends on population, also depends on the economics of the counties. It's not an issue that's complete and will continue to come up. At least all we can know is right now, if it goes forward with what the governor and his administration is saying, we have to budget for those costs. And as Rob said, it's 57% of that cost. And so it's difficult.
Stay tuned, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I think it's something every year we're just going to have to address until we can all agree on what's a fair share on this and the right way to pay for it.
All right, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure we get to this part of the segment. 8 weeks sitting back here in Sarasota County, for those of us who pay attention to the legislative process, it seems like it's 2 months, and it seems like it takes 2 months. You, who's up there all the time, does it seem to move faster for you? I mean, does it go really quick, or
it moves very fast? They're very fast but long days.
Okay.
Mondays are usually travel days for the legislators in the early parts of the session, and Fridays are usually the travel back to their districts.
Okay.
But those 3.5 days in between the travel days are packed with 10, 12, sometimes 15-hour days, and they move very fast during the day.
Okay. I want to get to this before we close out this segment. Commissioner, I'll start with you. Surprises out of this legislative session? Anything that you didn't see coming or anything like that?
Well, one thing that I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but that was very important for our community is University Parkway. And we had several meetings with the secretary from the Florida Department of Transportation, and he was very excited about moving forward with the redesign of the interchange at University Parkway and I-75. When we first met with them, the House of Representatives had well over, I think, $100 million set aside for projects like this. The Senate didn't have any. And so you would think when you got to the point where they try to reconcile the budgets, even if they said, okay, cut it in half, we go from 0 and 100 million, okay, here's 50 million. It ended up being 0. And so that doesn't mean this project's dead or something that's not going forward, because when we met with the secretary, it's his number one priority. It's the right-of-way's there, the need's there. It's unique to the state of Florida, and so we're working still with the Florida Department of Transportation to kind of keep that on the front burner, and hopefully something will start this year and they can find the money for it.
Okay, great. We're going to wrap up this segment. Now, obviously, it was a busy 8 weeks in Tallahassee. We've got a lot more to talk about. When we come back, we'll be talking about the county's priorities and how they fared in this legislative session. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more County Talk.
At Sarasota County, we believe in transparency, fair and open competition, opportunity for local vendors, and excellent customer service. Register with BidSync to do business with Sarasota County and get access to local government contract opportunities. Working with Sarasota County is easier than you think, so call 861-5000 and ask about BidSync registration or visit www.scgov.net. That's 941-861-5000. Call today.
In Sarasota County, 21,000 school kids depend on free or reduced lunches. But when summer comes, they need your help. All Faith Food Bank encourages you to empty your shelves and make a cash gift so no child in our community goes hungry this summer. Visit skipalunch.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Catch a wave and you're sitting on top of the world.
Give your kids a summer to remember with Sarasota County Parks and Recreation summer camp programs. With more than 30 different program choices, your child is sure to have a fun, safe, and healthy summer vacation. For camp registration information, visit parksonline.scgov.net or call 861-9870.
Keeping our water clean is good for all of us. When we each do our part, amazing things can happen. And they can happen right in your own yard. A beautiful and easy Florida-friendly yard requires less water, fertilizer, and pesticides, leaving more time for fun. Learn 5 easy ways to Floridify your yard at befloridian.org.
Welcome back to County Talk. I'm your host, Kurt Pricer, and today we're discussing the 2014 Florida State Legislative Session. Now, we talked about the county was looking for going into the 2014 legislative session. Now we're going to move the conversation over to what happened during the 8 weeks of that session where legislators met in Tallahassee. So, let's start with you here, Rob. Your impressions, some of the more significant actions taken during the legislative session.
Well, I think that the first one, and we're always concerned about it, is that we did not witness any significant preemption of local home rule authority. The ability for Commissioner Hines and the County Commission to establish our ordinances and establish our levels of service without state mandates and without unfunded mandates and without the preemption of the regulations that we have adopted was very important. There's one bill in particular that we were worried about that we can talk about later. I thought that it was significant, particularly for the residents across the state, is the number of fee reductions and tax reductions that can help in terms of economic recovery, which helps everyone in the state of Florida. And I think that the work by our legislative delegation to include in the water project funding monies for the Donna Bay restoration, as well as the school board's effort and partnership with us on seeking money for the SCTI, the Sarasota County Technical Institute facility in South County that will house functions of the library as well. So those were some of the key things that happened. But first and foremost, we didn't get preempted as we always worry about.
Is that always something that you're watching as well, Commissioner?
Yes, and I didn't say this earlier. I meant that I mentioned that I met with our delegation, but I definitely want to say thanks to them because they're open to us when we come, with ideas, with thoughts or concerns. They meet with us, they get the issues, and they do a great job. And there's many of them within that have moved up into some significant roles within our state. And that's nice. That's nice to see. As Rob said, money for Donna Bay and Sarasota County Technical Institute is huge. The preemption issue, what we learned, and I think we're going to get into the pain clinics a little bit, is I think we've done a very good job of solving that problem here in Sarasota County, and some other counties don't have the same type of problem. And if you try to adopt a statewide ordinance that would in essence preempt ours, if it weakens ours and something that's proven to work, then that's a huge area of concern.
And I want to go there, as a matter of fact. Thank you for the segue,
sure.
By the way, because I would like to get into the pain clinic ordinance just a little bit, because that's actually something that Sarasota County has looked at as a very successful program and looked across the state. A lot of counties are looking at us as kind of a leader in that initiative. Right. So what type of threat was there to what Sarasota County had established? How did that play out?
Well, Kurt, what we found, and it's the case in every legislative session, is towards the end of the session, about the last 7 or 8 days, unwritten as an amendment, but we learned that there was an intent to file an amendment that would have preempted local regulation of pain clinics. We worked in very close partnership with Sarasota County Sheriff Tom Knight, who, again, I'd like to thank in addition to our delegation. He worked very hard on this issue last year. He was right there working with us day and night again on it this year. As we moved into the final days of the session, we kept watching for where it could be amended onto a bill. The chairman signed several letters to our delegation, as well as to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, underscoring the fact that we have a local regulation that has saved lives and made a significant difference in that area. And so right up until literally the last few minutes of the session, we were watching and working to ensure that that language that would have preempted our local regulation not be amended onto a bill on the floor. Mind you, at that point, there are no more committee meetings. There are no more breaks. They're in session from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And so we were very much working the floor and very much working that issue, even though it was never written into any amendment or bill.
But yeah, if you got to remember, you got to think back a couple of years ago when we were ground zero for a lot of this problems. You had people coming from out of state, all across the state of Florida with multiple prescriptions, questionable prescriptions, and just coming to our county, getting these pain medicines, which have a good valid use if properly managed, and they weren't, and people were dying, people were taking these drugs and selling them and all that. So we came up with a plan that works well. I wish the state would copy ours, but there's a lot of money to be made in running pain clinics, but there has to be a balance. And so folks that want to open pain clinics or expand are always kind of looking to tweak the law a little bit. And so that's okay, in your community, but our community has said we want to fix this problem, and I think we have.
And obviously you talk to a lot of other county officials in other counties across the state. What do you hear about our pain clinic lawyers? I mean, do they come to you and say, how did you guys do it? And
and some do and some don't. I think some have copied us in a few years, but again, other areas have different issues. It's not always just OxyContin and those types of things. Other places, it's marijuana, heroin. It's different problems. So for the state to come across and do a blanket law is okay, so long as it doesn't necessarily weaken ours, because where we had a huge problem here, it doesn't seem to be in the front of the paper every day like it was.
Sure.
And you got to think back 3 years ago, people were dying, kids were getting arrested all the time for this problem. And so the preemption is a big deal, and as Rob said, sometimes his job, you ask, is it busy every day? Some days it's nice and quiet, then all of a sudden it's an emergency mode in regards to, oh no, this is getting snuck in at the end, we got to deal with it. So we've only got about a minute and a half left here. So when you get towards the end of that legislative session, and I've been there too in other legislatures, you get to the last couple of days,
Right.
things are going till late at night.
Right.
You're constantly on alert. You're not getting much sleep. You're talking to people all over the place. So how are you keeping track of everything? I mean, there's a lot of stuff flying around, Rob.
Well, it's like a funnel, Kurt. And as you get down to the final days, many things have been dispensed with at that point.
Sure.
And you have a sense of where some bills are going or not because of where they're at in the process. But in the case of an amendment or a threat of an amendment, that can come in flying out of the daylight, and they're difficult to defend. You got to be on guard all the time. And in the case of pain clinics, I will predict that issue will come back again next session.
Yeah, you think so?
Indeed.
And just to add to that, we've how do you stay up on all this? I think we're getting better at communicating with our cities, our counties, our Florida Association of Counties, that we're all helping each other to say, hey, this might be an issue that's important to you. That happened last year with Longboat Key, in a town, and the town that had an issue with one of their ordinances, that it got caught up in some things. And this year we kind of talked and said, hey, if you hear something that may affect us, and we're working together a lot better in helping each other
That's
out.
a very good point.
Open communication
Absolutely.
always helps.
Right.
Okay, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the end results of the legislative session, and I'm going to ask these two gentlemen to kind of look into their crystal ball and where they think we're going to be going in the future. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more County Talk.
Into each life, a little rain must fall. And what rains on our cities flows into what we drink. The Arbor Day Foundation invites you to plant trees in your community, so the water that flows into our rivers and streams will be clean and safe. The trees in your town also provide shade and song and beauty, clean air, lower energy costs, and higher property values. They are a source of life and a source of pride. Because when a town shows a commitment to planting and caring for trees, it can become a Tree City USA. Tree City USAs have one thing in common. They value trees and all that they do for us. Visit arborday.org to find out how to plant the right trees in the right place. To support Tree City USA where you live, go to arborday.org, because a little rain must fall.
At Sarasota County, we believe in transparency, fair and open competition, opportunity for local vendors, and excellent customer service. Register with BidSync to do business with Sarasota County and get access to local government contract opportunities. Working with Sarasota County is easier than you think, so call 861-5000 and ask about BidSync registration or visit www.scgov.net. That's 941-861-5000. Call today.
Wait a minute! What are we gonna do this summer? I'm going to summer camp.
Catch a wave and you're sitting on top of the world.
Give your kids a summer to remember with Sarasota County Parks and Recreation summer camp programs. With more than 30 different program choices, your child is sure to have a fun, safe, and healthy summer vacation. For camp registration information, visit parksonline.scgov.net or call 861-9870.
We're back for our final segment of County Talk. 8 weeks of discussion are done, and now a series of bills are headed for the governor's desk. My guest, Rob Lewis, Commissioner Charles Hines. Gentlemen, 1,812 bills filed in the legislature. 264 of those bills passed. Seems like big numbers, but Rob, you tell me. You've been watching the legislature for a long time. Is that above average, below average, about average? Where does it sit, really?
Well, yeah, Kurt, in fact, this past session was my 32nd legislative session, on and off through the years. 1,800 bills is lower than usual. We normally see between 2,400. And I think the reason for us seeing a lower bill count this year is a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of legislators are term limited. And so the concentration on the issues they're really trying to get focused on and get passed becomes quality, not quantity. And moreover, I think that with the intent to not do a lot of harm in this legislative session and keep it a clean session, so to speak, helped drive the count of bills down. Having said that, though, the number of bills that we started watching as a local government started around 400 bills. And as I mentioned before, as you funnel through and funnel down towards the end of the session, the number of bills you're watching begins to diminish. But in spite of the low bill count that was filed, we still ended up watching several hundred ourselves.
It did seem like there was not a lot of drama in this legislative session. It seemed to, for lack of a better term, seemed to go pretty smoothly. Was that just the story on the outside and there was something else going on behind the curtain? Come on, you can let us in.
There was a story on the outside, right? There's always drama.
Okay.
There's always drama. In fact, someone once told me years ago that it's hours of normal work interrupted only by moments of sheer terror. But there was lots of drama as it related to gaming. There was drama as it related to pension reform. There was drama as it related to the budget itself.
Okay.
And we thought there'd be quick order and quick agreement by the appropriation chairs, and it actually took more days than many of us had thought it would.
Commissioner, now 264 bills headed to the governor's desk. Is there anything that you and the rest of the Sarasota County Commission are really paying attention to that's sitting on the governor's desk at this point?
Yeah, well, the main ones, obviously the appropriations, the money that we believe we'll get, Donna Bay and the Sarasota County, SCTI. We've already sent letters and saying, please, to the governor, support those. We can't really fight for the things that we didn't get. One that, there was no money this year for Benderson. But I think looking forward, that's okay, because they're going to get, the private money this year, work real hard, and then we can come back next year, because that whole project's huge for the state of Florida. It
Sure.
really is. So, I know that wasn't your question, but really just keeping what we've got this year and make sure that we get it so we can move forward with those worthy projects.
All right, so keeping with the money theme, $500 million or so in tax cuts and fees and things like that, increased spending on education, a renewed emphasis on economic development and creating the opportunities for new jobs. How does that on the state level in Tallahassee translate down here into Sarasota County? So what kind of impacts might you be looking for?
You got to really back up. We have the New South, I don't know if you want to call it, but you take a look at the southern states, and a lot of them have no personal income tax, no estate tax. They're at-will states for workers. The Florida has set itself up to be a place to bring business to our state. And the governor was, create jobs, these types of things that occurred this year, balanced budget, the tax cuts, and that all trickles down to us when our EDC goes out and tries to bring businesses to Sarasota County, that all lines up perfect with what we're trying to do. Why move your business here? Why do business here? And it's a great state to live in, and then when you take a look at the cost of doing business here, it's better than other places.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball going forward, and we were just joking a little bit on the break, already looking at the 2015 session, which will start around September, correct? That's when committee meetings start rolling
We'll
up?
actually prepare, Kurt, our legislative platform for the board's first look in September. It'll prepare us for our Florida Association of County legislative meetings. The general elections take place in November. Within days after that, we'll see an organizational session where the Speaker and the President of the Senate will be announced, and committee chairman will be announced, and committee meetings will start thereafter.
Okay. And so, looking forward into 2015, I know I may be pushing a little bit, but come on, give me a little clue on some priorities.
Well, we'll start like we did at the beginning of the program, and that is being ever mindful of the threat of preemption of local home rule. Okay. So we'll start there. I would like us to get back and readdress the effort to try to reestablish our ability to regulate smoking on beaches. That's something that's been held back the last couple of years. We will be looking again for projects that might be worthy of state funding. The economy continues to improve, and we would be hopeful that next year the legislature would also be in a situation again to look at not only tax reductions, but the ability to fund worthy local projects. So we'll be working on profiling those projects much earlier in the session this year.
Real quick, we're just getting ready to wrap up. Commissioner, anything you want to add?
Same thing. We're going into our budget review process right here for Sarasota County, and the projections that we're getting on the increased value of property, and we just want to make sure that we can keep our level of service and pay for the things that we have without raising taxes. And I think we're doing it. We're doing a good job. So going into it is to try to say, don't hurt us. That sounds funny to say that, sure. But I feel we're doing a really, really good job, and I would ask some of the state to take a look at the way we're doing things. The smoking one, that one just doesn't make any sense to me. We can't regulate our own county parks. We got to fix that one, and we will. And so.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us here at the table today. Appreciate it very much. This has been County Talk. Remember, you can join our discussion on Facebook and Twitter, or watch episodes of County Talk on YouTube. You can get to all of those just by going to our website at scgov.net. Thank you for watching County Talk.
Sarasota County celebrates Viva Florida 500 because history happened here. From educational exhibits of our earliest residents at Indian Mound Park to a vital World War II Army base in Venice to the legacy of our storied circus history, Sarasota County offers a lifetime of historic experiences. To learn more, go to visitsarasota.org and click the Viva Florida 500 link. Sarasota County and Viva Florida 500, history happened here.
At Sarasota County, we believe in transparency, fair and open competition, opportunity for local vendors, and excellent customer service. Register with BidSync to do business with Sarasota County and get access to local government contract opportunities. Working with Sarasota County is easier than you think, so call 861-5000 and ask about BidSync registration, or visit www.scgov.net. That's 941-861-5000. Call today.
In Sarasota County, 21,000 school kids depend on free or reduced lunches. But when summer comes, they need your help. All Faith Food Bank encourages you to empty your shelves and make a cash gift so no child in our community goes hungry this summer. Visit skipalunch.org to learn how you can make a difference.
The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office wants you to stay safe on the water this year. I'm Sheriff Tom Knight. Whether you're a beginner or you've been boating in Florida for years, operating at safe speeds, wearing a life jacket, and avoiding alcohol will help keep you safe. Being out on a boat or personal watercraft is a lot of fun, but you need the proper safety equipment. Don't let a great day in the water be ruined by a bad decision. Go to sarasotasheriff.org to learn more about boating safety. And don't forget the sunscreen.
The price of gas just keeps going up, and your commute from Northport to Sarasota isn't getting any shorter. But it can get a lot easier. Take the hassle out of your drive with the Scat Express, running 8 times a day, Monday through Friday.
Save on gas. The maintenance of my vehicle is less.
It's a nice way to save money.
Scat Express, your hassle-free connection between Northport and Sarasota. For more information, visit www.scgov.net or give us a call at 861-5000.